Demos, you there?
Sorry.
Hmm? Oh, you are. Okay, cool.
Right.
Uh, just need to help with some of the store credit here, so I'll leave this over to your expert hands.
Sounds good. So we are starting with what looks to be a Dominated Glacial Fuse now. Dominated Glacial that is fused, blocking the damage off of Aether Ice Vein. Or blocking as much as we can. So this turn just looks like we're trading damage. The disruptive effect off the Ice Vein, not as effective as we would have hoped from Michael, because everything was played out before a priority window came into play. Drop that Glacial. Blocking 3 with the Ice Bolt. And are we going to see the follow-up swing with Waning Moon? We are not. We see the value play, Finals, gaining 1 life, threatening 7. Notably, this will leave Michael without an arsenal. So Tariq has lots of options on how to defend this. You can see an Enlightened Strike in the hand as well as 2 Channel-like Frigids. So there could be some strong options. Decided we like all the cards in our hand. So we're going to just throw some armor at it while we can. Ensure we can get the value out in case things just start becoming arcane damage back and forth for the rest of the game. It's worth reaffirming here that all that glare on the bottom screen is hiding a pretty standard loadout of equipment from Oldhim. We're seeing a block with Stalagmite and Crater Fist, complementing a Tunic and Null Rune boots, as well as an Arcane Lantern. So we've only got Null Rune 2, but we do have that Crown of Seeds that can bump it up to be that 3rd point to prevent arcane damage, notably on Waning Moon at very low life totals, or against blue Aether Ice Veins. So Tariq using that armor, preserving all 4 cards in hand. We're going to see the E-Strike coming in here, possibly. Or is that a Thunderquake? Maybe we see the Thunderquake and then we arsenal the E-Strike. We're seeing Thunderquake get played out with E-Strike going into Arsenal. The alternative could have been E-Strike for 7 and then heave the Thunderquake. However, the popping of those Seismic Surge tokens does allow Iyslander a priority window to throw some disruption at you and maybe make it so that those 3 Seismic Surges don't give all the benefit that you were quite hoping for, having to awkwardly pitch an extra card out of hand. Michael deciding how much we want to block here. The nice thing about blocking Guardian attacks is, it's not exactly split damage. You can always get full block value out of the cards that you do commit to it. But this play might be to take some damage, hopefully end up with an arsenal for Michael. That's generally where Iyslander does want to be. Blocking with the Brain Freeze, which is what it is best at doing in this particular matchup. Michael taking 2 damage there, blocking with a 2 block. 1 card left in hand, going to the arsenal, looks like. And now Tara gets to play out this 5-card hand with that E-Strike, which is a good way. It's a good hand to be with because either you play out the 4 cards you draw naturally, or you play that E-Strike out of Arsenal and you can still make the most out of that hand, even if it is a bunch of Aqua Blues. Notably, both Tunics are on 3 now. There goes the E-Strike. Presumably go again, since it's starting the turn. And we see the immediate response from Michael coming out with an Aether Hail. So just a bit of, oh, sorry, Cold Snap, that is. So we're pushing 3 arcane damage off the Waning Moon, and Michael gets to draw that card there as well. Blocking 3 with the Frost Hex. When Iyslander does block with the Frost Hex, it can be a signal to Oldhim that maybe a slower, longer game is possible. However, the fact that Tariq only brought 2 Null Room here may indicate that, you know, that's not a game that either player is necessarily willing to play. So we're seeing all the armor come out here from Michael. Tunic, paying for the Ironhide Gauntlet, and the Crown of Providence. So we really don't want to deal with that Frostbite. Michael's got 3 cards left in hand. And we saw something get heaved at the end there. Unfortunately, with the glare, I can't quite tell what it is. My guess would be a Thunderquake, because heaving a Pulverize is a very, very risky thing to do against Iyslander. But for this turn, we are fusing an Aether Ice Vein. We're going to pop that Aether Hail in Arsenal afterwards, allow to push a Frostbite and a little bit of arcane damage, make those Seismic Surges just that little bit more awkward to benefit from. So you've got to be pitching 2 cards to play out that Thunderquake rather than just the 1. And that is in addition to the disruption that we've got coming in from this Ice Vein. So we're taking all the damage from the Ice Vein, discarding a Command and Conquer. Tariq really wants to keep those blue cards in his hand. Willing to take the damage knowing that there will be a big attack swinging next turn. And those Seismic Surges activate. Presumably Michael's playing out that Aether Hail now in order to get that Frostbite and make that a 2-card pitch required for Thunderquake. Oh, is that an Exposed to the Elements in Tariq's hand? That is always an interesting card in this matchup, because depending on how your opponent plays it, you could get lucky and snipe Stormstriders. Although, based on the composition of Tariq's hand, I don't think that's going to be happening this turn, because I don't think there's an ice card to fuse it with, unfortunately. So that normally opportunistic play isn't coming up in this particular instance. Oh wait, that is a Pulverize. Wow, that is a very bold play to be making against an Iyslander. There are several cards in the deck that would just make it possible to have that Pulverize stuck there almost in perpetuity. That being said, Iyslander does take enough off turns where you may be able to sneak it out at a certain point just by taking some vanilla damage and letting them arsenal on one of those reset turns that does tend to happen once or twice per game. Tariq has a 4-card hand. Deciding what to do with it. Michael taking his turn off to just pop that pop a card into the arsenal. So we have a non-fused Endless Winter here. The effect of Endless Winter, not too crippling to Iyslander. It can change how some lines play out. It can make things slightly more awkward. But unless it's, that big Stormstrider's turn, it's usually not too impactful. The main thing that's happening here is, Oldhim is continuing to push pressure on an Iyslander that now has a lower life total, while simultaneously threatening pummel. So 5 damage is taken. The effect of the creation of frostbites is coming through on the activation of abilities. So looks like we're not going to be activating any abilities this turn. We're just going to be fusing the Aether Ice Vein. We're trying to steal a bit of tempo here. Maybe we see the immediate usage of that Amulet of Ice. We've seen that come out from Michael in the other games we've seen on stream from him. That very aggressive tempo usage of the soon-to-be banned card. Yeah, and there goes the Amulet of Ice, forcing one more card out of hand there, and allowing Michael to arsenal the Cold Snap. So that'll be some extra damage on Tariq's turn. A Frostbite if something relevant happens. Doesn't look like it is. Probably E-Strike for 7. But it allows Michael to deal 3 damage and draw a card, replace itself. Just a generally efficient play. Michael thinking on Waning Moon. Oh, sorry. We've triggered Tunic in order to prevent one of those Arcane coming in before that Frostbite lands. Tariq signaling that he will be arsenaling this card one way or another, and just mitigating the damage, saving the 1 life that Tunic can represent. Michael thinking on blocks. Do you give 1 card here and then come in with a big attack, arsenal a card? Oh, you drew the sink below, so the options are a bit limited. You cover all 7. A card has been sunk. So Michael, depending on what he drew there, may severely impact on how this turn is going. Without Coronet's Peak, yeah, there you go. Without Coronet's Peak, it makes those 2-card hands very awkward for the Iyslander player. Because ideally, you'd want to just pitch that blue, force a card out of Tariq's hand. He doesn't have the Tunic counter currently available. And that would, have made this Rouse turn a little bit more awkward, in all honesty. But instead, Michael arsenals a card, holds a card in hand, loses that bit of efficiency that Cold Snap gave him. And now Tariq is threatening a big turn here. It looks like a Rouse revealing something in an Endless Winter, so presumably the Endless Winter can come in after this, representing a 15 damage turn, which is always scary. That's not the first Insidious Chill we've seen Michael pitch. Those are cards that are great to play out. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's lined up that way for him this turn, or this game. Or at the very least, the priorities are lying elsewhere for the purpose of this. So we're blocking 1 damage off the Frostbolt. Tariq aware that he's going to need to pay through that Frostbite to play out that Endless Winter, presumably with that last blue card in his hand. Knowing that he's threatening enough damage to not have to worry about too much of a retribution from Michael on his upcoming turn. So Michael's dealt his damage for the turn. Now he just needs to block the up to 15 that Tariq is threatening here. But in all honesty, There might be some thinking on Storm Striders here. If that disruption, oh no, sink below means that it is very difficult to disrupt that hand. And so Tariq now does get to play out that Endless Winter. No fuse on it, but 8 damage when you've got 9 life left is very threatening. As I mentioned earlier, you know, the impact of the on-hit effect from Endless Winter usually doesn't affect Iyslander too much. Definitely not going to affect Iyslander very much when she's only got 1 card to pop into Arsenal. Now, Michael isn't out of this quite yet. There's still a lot that can be done with Storm Striders.
He needs to get an amulet on the table, or he's got a heart in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, heart 1 life is good. You know you're going to be pitching anyways.
It's not 0 in this case,
Yeah.
but getting a heart on the board and just finding a fusion, because right now he needs to attack Tariq's hand more than anything. He needs to make this man have no cards in his hand to play.
Yeah. He's got to buy a couple turns of just chip damage, trying to keep his life total high enough, and then wait for Tariq to, um, play out a decently sized attack, because you do need to keep that pressure on as Oldhim, and then maybe you can find a window. Storm Striders pop some arcane damage in there as well. Tariq, though, thinking very hard about what he's going to do with this 4-card hand.
A mistake I've often seen players do against an Iyslander with a full grip of cards in their hand, and sometimes with a tunic counter, is to play their non-attack action card at the very beginning. Um, and it just allows, like the Terrasander, let's say, right, earlier, which allows her to just
Indeed.
step in and present damage.
Yeah, if you do play out those non-attack actions, Iyslander can definitely steal the whole turn from you. I don't think Tariq's running very many of them in his deck, in all honesty. I think we did see a Terrasander get
Terrasander,
pitched earlier,
yeah.
but other than that,
Nothing else. I don't think he
it's
even
not.
plays Zealous Belding. I've never seen it once.
No, Oldhims generally don't. They prefer Enlightened Strike
Mhm.
because it's so rare to run a Nothos. Maybe that changes with the ban, who knows?
I think
That
everyone's pretty much
the
on the hammer.
yeah,
The other
the
hammer, sorry, one of
flexibility,
the many.
yeah, the flexibility of Enlightened Strike is just too good, right? And it blocks 3. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Bravo prefers it because you can Zealous Belting, make a surge, and then swing the hammer for 6 afterwards, which is a stronger follow-up than Oldhim has. So Tariq here did
We'll
a lot of
see.
thinking, decided
For 5.
not to play out the channel like Frigid,
Mm-hmm.
opting instead for just more points of damage off the Enlightened Strike. I'm assuming this is go again, but technically we don't have any indication of that. Michael playing up Polar Blast, the potential dominate that it would give Michael's attacks is not relevant on the opposing turn, but it does draw a card. So you gain a life off of heart, and you still have 4 cards to block with.
Nice
Quite
use.
efficient. And there you go. Brothers in Arms.
Yep, so
You're
let's
only
go
taking
again.
1 damage here. Um, we're pitching through. We're swinging the hammer.
Nice. Oh, wow.
And another Brothers in Arms. What a fantastically efficient turn
Yep. He managed to
from
get through it
Michael.
all. That
You, yeah, effectively with 2 cards, you have mitigated 9 damage.
inline strike for
Which
obviously
I would
7.
imagine. Oh, I would say
Maybe
5
5.
draw a
Draw a
card.
card? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you draw a card and you hope you get something decent to Arsenal.
You'll be getting the
Uh,
arsenal.
yeah,
Or
that's true.
maybe he. No, yeah, he drew the card. Yeah. So it really only goes one way from here.
Yeah, but that being said, it's that means that um, Michael's last hand was a heart, an enlightened strike, 2 brothers in arms, and yeah, that 0 ice, 0 wizard cards in the lot, which at this point when you're this low on life can work out nicely like that, but it can also be quite awkward and quite challenging, um, just because of the threat. You want to be able to have access to Storm Striders. So we saw Tariq block some of the damage off of Enlightened Strike with some points of armor that surprisingly useful against wizards. Are we blocking? Oh wow, we are blocking Winter's Wail with a Wounded Bull. Very interesting. So Michael is going lower on life. Presumably we're going to see an Aether Ice Vein here. Oh no, we're going to see Findle's Fighting Spirit. So we're threatening damage. And then we're arsenaling something to ideally cheat something out. The Tariq here showing he's been pretty happy blocking out these physical attacks, and buying this time until he gets something that he knows can trigger something. I mean, in this instance, if you're Tariq, if you can dominate a Glacial Footsteps holding a blue ice card, you are very happy. He's got 5 cards in his hand. I can't see what they are, but 5 cards is comes with a lot of options. Thinking on these blocks still. Even though none of our matches have hit time, the fact that top 8 is untimed sometimes allows players to take the extra moment that they may not take in Swiss to deliberate on these decisions. So one of Tariq's 5 cards is a pummel, which, is a classic risky move to try to win against a wizard. Maybe less risky when you're on 13 life, but the decision oftentimes comes down to, do I hold it to try to play it out? But it looks like it's being used to block here. Possibly, I can't quite tell with the resolution on the screen. Or pardon me, with the glare. It looks like a pummel to me. But Tariq is happy taking 5 damage here. It means he's got something big coming in return, because 8 damage is starting to get definitely to the danger zone for Iyslander. Or against an Iyslander, pardon me. I'm not sure why play has been paused, or why we're still waiting. It looks like the block has been declared. Unless the players are having a chat about something different. Or maybe Tariq's debating about further blocks? I'm unsure.
It could be that maybe Michael is getting a raid for his deck. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but then you still subtract life
Oh
totals
yeah,
and then
he's
okay.
thinking about his
Yeah,
block.
there we go.
Yeah.
Tariq was debating on further blocks, okay. Tariq
So
blocking out with
Tunic is gone.
Tunic.
Hmm.
Tunic is gone, and
Command and Conquer.
well, I mean, realistically speaking, 11 damage is, the upper amount that you could expect to come in from an Iyslander. Blue Emeritus out of Arsenal, boots into another Emeritus Scolding, and then another Waning Moon comes in for exactly, you know, 11 damage. But if you just have a little bit floating to prevent that from your Null Rune 2, Wait, Null Rune 2? Or do we only have Null Rune 1? I'm not actually certain.
He doesn't have the gloves anymore, and he just has the his legs. I think are Nelrune, and actually I've never
Yeah.
seen him actually pitch for
Oh, and
Nelrune.
the crown. Interesting. Okay.
He's
Yeah.
got the Nelrune boots only.
Interesting. So yeah, definitely opting more for the just using the armor, um, which we've seen, full value 6 points out of. Tariq doesn't generally like to pitch to block the arcane damage coming in. We're threatening a pummel on Command and Conquer here. Michael is hesitant to play whatever's in his arsenal out of the arsenal, which means maybe it's a Sink Below that's stuck there, maybe it's another attack, like a Fyendel's or a Wounded Bull. But these endgame Command and Conquers are always a challenge to block, because it's so hard to play around pummel. Because
Yeah,
if you do, they hold the pummel and they just play it out next turn, and if you don't, you get blown out in.
Iyslander is in a unique position where on her own turn, if she's able to block 3 and not get pummeled, hypothetically, she could get a fuse, Wraith Ice Bane fuse, and get rid of a card from him, especially if he only has potentially 2 damage prevention. Seal a card from his hand.
Yeah,
I mean, the possibilities are there, right?
indeed.
But I mean, we've seen Tariq here before, or Tariq here before, where he has a player at very low life. Although this is a stark difference from the last game, he has a player at a very low amount of health, and he's able to just impose his will on them. And it seems that may be what's happening. I think if a pummel comes in here, I think we're just kind of that's what it is, right? Yeah, there
We're
it is,
blocking 9.
like clockwork. So I mean, just yeah, use some.
Well, but at this point, yeah, you play out whatever was in arsenal, and you push as much damage as you can. Um, and I mean, you're only taking 1 damage in response.
Oh, and he's gonna. Okay. Oh yeah, he's gonna use. Okay, yeah, that's still smart.
Yeah,
That's another four
using tunic
damage.
counter, preventing 1, taking 2.
Wouldn't
Wow.
that be? That's 3. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So I mean, that
that
made the game a
was
lot closer because he could just end him if he has the right card in his hand. Yeah.
that was masterfully navigated by Michael in the situation that he was in.
He baited the
So
pummel.
at this point, it really depends on what comes off the top of both these players' decks here.
I'm pretty sure if he can break the boots and do literally anything, he
Oh,
could just kill him.
yeah. Well, Tariq has no arsenal. Winter's Bite is, you know, I think if I see a Winter's Bite and I'm Michael, I take it as an invitation to pop Stormstriders and maybe do something else interesting.
Get rid of his hand. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
And we're going in.
there you go.
If he has the fuse.
Well, if he
Oh my
has,
God, he had. Does he? Does he
well,
have it?
he doesn't even need the fuse. He just needs Aether Icebane into
Waning
Waning
moon.
Moon.
Yeah, that's true.
The gamble being that Tariq doesn't have Oasis or Sigil, which he has not represented at all up to this point.
Hmm.
So this is he can only prevent 1 from each of these.
Oh wow,
There you
yeah.
go.
You kind of knew if you looked, he
So
has no
that game goes
arsenal,
to Michael.
no arsenal,
Um,
and he has arcane barrier only
yeah,
one arcane barrier. So I mean,
Null Rune 1 is a very big gamble to come into against Iyslander. Um, just because you do, in situations like this, Null Rune 2, you would have survived. Well, unless that was a red. If that was a red, I think you may have still died exactly.